Department of Computer Science and Engineering, National Institute of Technology, Warangal. His research interests include data mining, big data, machine learning, and databases and workflow systems. Prior to joining NIT, he served as a principal research scientist at Infosys Labs, Infosys Limited, Hyderabad, where he was associated with research projects leading to futuristic intelligent systems and analytical solutions. He conceptualized numerous research projects in the areas of CRM, social networking mining, web, sequence, text and image mining, e-check clearing and settlement and financial inclusion, and also associated in building innovation labs for leading industries. Dr. Krishna also served as a faculty at the Institute for Development and Research in Banking Technology, as a scientist at National Informatics Center, Bhopal, and as adjunct faculty at NIT Warangal and IIIT Hyderabad. At IDRBT, he was the advisor to many public and private sector banks in India for implementation of end-to-end enterprise-wide data warehouse and business intelligence solutions. Dr. Krishna was also a member of IT Advisory Committee, Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority, India. He has been a member of research advisory committees of several academic institutions. Also, Dr. Krishna has been a member of editorial review board of international journals and a reviewer of several international journals, including IEEE Transactions on Knowledge and Data Engineering, IEEE Transactions on Services Computing, Information Sciences, Data and Knowledge Engineering, Information Systems, and Frontiers of Soft Computing. Dr. Krishna has double PhDs, first one from Osmania University and second one from IIIT Hyderabad. And he has 15 granted patents, authored and co-authored 6 books, and have over 100 publications. We feel very glad to have you here with us, sir. I hope we all learn from your experiences. We are eagerly waiting for your speech. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, sir. And
yeah, good morning.
It's my privilege, sir, actually, to listen to your session online, sir.
Okay. Thanks. And thanks for the long introduction. And then good morning to all of you. And I'm very happy that to be part of the this program. And let me share my screen.
Yes, sir. The screen is visible, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Once again, good morning to all of you. The session was actually the inaugural session. Observing that there are a lot of aspects, the research ideas was people they are given by the speakers. Okay. So the topic was I was taking this like a deep learning models, and we will see how deep these learning algorithms means. Okay. And also you are having I have seen the schedule. There are many other topics, similar topics were there. So I'll try to cover. Of course, it's my session, so I'll try to see which was not maybe not be covering in the other sessions. So again, once again, thanks for giving me opportunity to interact with all of you, to the management of the Vishnu Engineering College, Bhimavaram. So actually, the kdnagesh.com is I have taken this cartoon from the kdnagesh.com. Those people, the people who are actually working in the AI, machine learning, deep learning, big data area, usually go for this kdnagesh.com to get the up-to-date information on the technology, conferences, and the solutions, and various kind of programming paradigms that are happening. So I have taken the same thing from this one, and this is this I liked it, this cartoon. So you can see there's a couple who actually went for a dinner, and then the waiter actually says, you just smile, our AI will take a picture of your face and will know exactly what you would like to for dinner tonight. So you don't require to tell of your menu or choice of your menu, or even you don't require to be say that what you are interested, because the AI is just the intelligent agent. The AI can know what are your interest, what is your taste, and what you are taking in the morning, what you are taking in the lunch, and how much hungry you are, because they have to add the quantity also, right? So how much hungry you are now. So all the things will be analyzed, and it will prepare the menu, and then of course you have to take that menu. But here is another interesting aspect of it. See, even when we are driving a car and using the Google Maps, and the map, whichever direction the maps take us, so we have to go in that direction, right? So we may not have many options to do that. So whenever you are using the technology, so we have to be bind with the technology what it provides. So that's why, suppose we cannot say that the kind of intelligence is good enough to have like 100% will be what we expect. Right? So there's a possibility that there is the chances of sometimes we may not get what we are liking for it. Right? So that means even irrespective of whether we like it or don't like, we have to be live with this kind of a technology. Suppose in this case, if you don't get what you are looking for, maybe sometimes the agent the AI can provide you the kind of a food which is very hard for you to digest. So how even to think about it, what kind of a things are there. So that is the kind of a thing. And look at the things. Maybe many of the people are talked about the greatness of the AI. And in industry, mainly people are looking for, there's a kind of a buzzword that people call like a AI and automation. And if you look at carefully what happening, the automation, the early days of computer science is mostly focused on this automation, where they want to automate the business processes. And the other side is we want to keep the decision-making things, and we want to incorporate the decision-making capabilities in the workflow system, right? The AI-based systems. And we are not sure. Of course, I don't want to comment the things, but the thing is, we do not know whether AI is a hype or it is maybe reality, right? And actually, it's like both. And many of the people think that from the AI can do everything, but it is very hard that many of the places AI may not be able to. Even it is very difficult to solve a lot of problems. So I'm not going to deep these things because people are already talked about it, like AI and the modern AI, and then because the incorporation of this kind of intelligence in the business domains, people have started coining the new word like a data mining. Right? And then there's agents and robotics. So agents will be like a software agents or the hard agents, because today most of the people, whenever any kind of a website if you take, we will get a screen saying that may I help you, and you will have a conversations will be taken place. So a user will be given a conversation query, and then the conversational agent will try to give the response, right? So today one of the major area of research is going in a conversational AI. So then there is a robotics. People are talking about the robotics also, and also there is another interesting area. Robotics, usually we think about like humanoids and humanoid robots and everything, but there is also a lot of work is happening in the soft robots. Right? The soft robots. Even today in industry, you may be seeing that when there is a lot of opportunity was there in the robotic process automation, usually called RPA. Right? So we also done earlier one of the project called long arm project. So actually, if you want to do any kind of a testing of a mobile applications, so mobile industry is actually a very confidentially they will work, because otherwise competitors may take over the things, right? So they will not allow the software to be go out, and even the people cannot reach to that place where this is happening. So in this case, suppose if you develop an app, how you can test that app, right? So is it possible to do remotely? So that's why we developed like a long arm project, so which can able to take this one, because you require to know a lot of aspects to test this one, right? Because sometimes you need to scroll, sometimes you click and double click, and then maybe expand and copy. So a lot of things you need to do. So all the things you have to be able to test. Then autonomous systems, as Dean also mentioned, that when there's a things are going in a self-manageable things like a driverless car by Google and everything. Right? Then people are talking about this deep learning, and this is actually where we are actually going into this. Today, most of the students are do projects in the deep learning area. You can see that there's a lot of evolution is happening. The models are developed. There are a lot of models are developing. Starting from the AI, where we are usually focused on the search techniques, and then maybe going for the frames, logical formalisms, predicate and proportional logic, and everything. And where when we go for the statistical machine learning, we look at the hidden Markov models, conditional random fields, and everything, right? And otherwise, the other side of this one, like a supervisor learning, unsupervised learning things. And with image processing, people are talking about the pattern recognition. Most of the aspects of all this technology is mainly depending on our feature engineering. So the crux of any of the success of any of these technologies are based on the feature engineering. That means the features that you are choosing it is important. Of course, if you are having thousands of the features, then there you can use the dimension reduction techniques and everything. But the challenge is what kind of a feature that you can provide to this one, to the algorithm. Right? So the technology is already available. These algorithms are available, but we are actually spending a lot of time on the feature engineering. So now the deep learning actually brought into us and try to minimize the things. And today, early days of programming, computer industry, and even the people who want to get a job, they are usually measured with respect to the number of lines of code written. But today, if you're looking like a Python kind of a programming language, we can see the code is the number of lines of code is drastically reduced. And even with 4 or 5 lines of the code, I can execute any of these algorithms. Right? So similarly here, is it possible with this feature engineering is a complex task? Can we able to minimize this task? Can I hand over to this one to the technology itself? So that's why the focus has come out like this deep learning, where you can look into it the kind of a feature engineering aspects as actually is become like implicit as part of our technology. So that's why the deep learning becoming popular now, because earlier we used to take like a data and identify the features. If you're taking the text, you are identifying the text features. If you are giving the image, you're choosing the image features. But now you have to directly can give image, you can give directly text. What are the data points that we are having in hand that can be submitted to the deep learning algorithm, and you can get the output either supervised or unsupervised, or maybe semi-supervised even. The another direction which deep learning models are becoming popular is the representation learning. They are called representation learning. So that means today almost all the data things will be represented in the form of a vectors. And the embedding is one of the major important aspect which is coming up, and even including all the vendors like all the big giants like Microsoft, Facebook, Google. So each one is developing their own like a vectorization aspects, and because they have their own vector, the length of the string and everything, right? They're starting with their own representations. So to make it more quick, fast outcome. So then after deep learning, anyhow, the data science became popular because it's as a technology advancements in the big data. And when we talk about big data, we always remember the words which are starting with the V, right? Volume, velocity, variety, viscosity, value, so many things. They are having which are the words that are having in the dictionary with V. They are saying all this belongs to big data. Right? So with this advancements in the big data and handling this like a large data, scale of large data, people are now coining the word of the data science, and that became popular. And the advantage of the data science is not only having all these kind of technologies, and it is also bringing a lot of aspects from the other disciplines as well, like a probability statistics, visualization, neurocomputing, lot of aspects that is coming into this one and become like a broader area of this AI. They call it like a data science nowadays. But one of the things which was actually I'm more concerned with the kind of not the technology, because the technology is available and people are working with the all these kind of things, and even in the academia we are executing the algorithms, and we are developing good research, new algorithms, and we try to find improving our accuracy of the things. But the crux is the challenge also here is, unless I am not able to find what is the kind of a advantage I will get from this one, right? So the basic idea is we are forgetting about the core aspect of all the things is the data. So without giving a lot of importance to the data, we will give most of the importance to the algorithms. Okay. So the most important is we are in the data-driven world, and unless you are not applying or employing all these techniques in your data, there's not much use of it. Even if I have a transformer today, people are talking about the. If you remember, there's a people frequently using the word "but," pre-trained transformers, right? So unless you don't have the data, what we can do if even if we are having advanced technologies. So the idea is actually whatever the technology you use, it could be like a simple AI or it could be like advanced deep learning techniques. We have to sense the data. That is more important compared to the other aspects of it. So that's why usually when I'm in the industry or even when we look at the projects, I was mostly focused on that, what the advantage that I am getting by doing some kind of a enhancing the algorithm or maybe applying the algorithm. So that's why the data sense is more important. That means how much that I can sense out of the given data. Actually, that itself will gives me the kind of a value addition. Value addition to my business. Business could be anything. Education also could be a business. Maybe healthcare sector, retail, automobile industry, could be anything. So this data is not that simply that I'm having a data, but I can whatever that I can get the value addition out of it. That is more important. So that means what we are trying to doing is the cognitive reasoning that human beings are having. So they're trying to incorporate it as part of the machines. Yeah. That's why today you can look at the Microsoft having a cognitive computing platform. Google is having a cloud vision API. So all these people are coming with the good tools where they're trying to incorporate as much as knowledge into this one. Of course, they are also very clever in taking from the things. They are looking from like a crowdsourcing kind of approaches. So that's why if you look at the deep learning, because our topic itself is like a deep learning. So this deep learning can be achieved like a human performance level of the cognitive task. That's why I'm saying that the cognitive reasoning or the strategic thinking that the people are having can be achieved through using these deep learning techniques. And it actually become very much popular in the language analysis, language understanding, that NLU, natural language understanding, and image analysis. So very of the beauty of the applications, a number of applications are come out of it, and we are actually we can able to feel that the solutions are coming out of this deep learning. It could be like a autonomous cars from Tesla, or even you can see that Facebook, social media, where they're having a photo tagging systems, right? And actually, Apple started this Siri, which is like a virtual assistant, and many of the people are now today are talking about the virtual assistants, right? And then chatbots, and even every time whatever that we are trying to interact with the systems, we will have like a chatbot in place. And even these cameras, if you take a camera, it will automatically we have the face recognition, right? Even if you are having maybe 10 people in the scene, all the 10 faces will be recognized because they will have a bounding blocks on this one. That means the intelligence is incorporating it as part of the devices. Of course, that's why the people are now moving to like a IoT and fog, right? So there are a number of good applications are there for deep learning, for NLP and everything. They are very good things. These are applications, starting from like a text summarization and the Q&A systems where the conversations you can have chatbots, virtual assistants, recommendation systems, labeling, sentiment analysis. Of course, last few decades have done the sentiment analysis. People are usually do with the normal NLP aspects, and then they started with the machine learning things. Now they are going for the deep learning things to do the sentiment analysis, and image and to text mappings, so machine translation, because this machine translation actually changed a lot, because one of the changes like encoders, auto encoders, decoders started with the machine translation kind of applications, and the speech recognition. So there are numerous applications for the deep learning. Of course, similarly we have like a image video applications also. So now this is if you look at the classifying learning problems, we have like a supervised learning, unsupervised learning, like reinforcement learning, right? And then self-organization. Then now we are going mostly on the deep learning aspects. Okay? So that's why I mentioned that the representation learning, the fundamental aspect of the deep learning is the representation learning and also implicit feature engineering. Okay. So this deep learning actually started with the neural networks, commonly called like ANNs, artificial neural networks, and with the advancements in the neural networks and the computational power that exists today, the deep learning becoming a major area of focus. So that's why this deep learning tries to find the good representations, because earlier we are trying to making these features, but now we don't require it. This find a feature automatically from data without any handcrafted feature engineering, because earlier almost like a machine learning aspects, everything we have to do our own this handcrafting this features, right? So that is the greatest advantage that the deep learning is coming up. That means the complex relationships, which are complexity in the data, which cannot be understood by the human beings, or it is very difficult to understand, okay, which kind of a feature that will be actually helps us in determining this complexity, right? So those are aspects that are happening coming in the deep learning stage. So there are basically, if you are very good in the machine learning, we have any object given to this one, so, and then we do the feature extraction and apply any kind of a classification algorithm. Finally, you can get an output. In this case, like either is a car or not car. There is a binary classification, right? Binary classification problem. The same thing you can achieve using the deep learning also, but the only aspect is these two things are much combined. And when you're combining, you can see how it's not like a one step saying that I put the feature extraction as part of this one. It may not be that much simple, right? So it could be you are having a hierarchy of multiple layers. So the aspect that you are bringing here, so at every time you are looking for all the past step, right? That is usually we call a hidden nodes hedge. So we are having hierarchy of multiple layers, and today you can see, if you go to the research papers, and even while reviewing also, you can see people are talking about like 20 layers, 30 layers, 40 layers, right? And people are not stopping it. They are going even hundreds of the layers also to say that one they want to achieve 100% accuracy, which is actually a surprising things. Rather than people are talking about the handling the problems, they want to improve the accuracy. So by the time of the having this kind of a more and more of the layers, and we are not sure what actually the system is working and what it does for a new sample was given to it. Right? So luckily, if it comes out good, that we are happy. Otherwise, we'll be in the problem like which I mentioned in my previous slide, the cartoon slide, right? So now the deep learning models, we to understand that one, the basic is the starting point is like a neural network. Many people think that one is like a very complex thing. Neural network is a very complex, but if you look at it, it's like a simple mathematical model, nothing else than a mathematical model. Assume that one this is everything like a black box. Assume all the things like a black box, right? That means I am having a set of mathematical equations, that a mathematical model, and then I'm giving the input, I'm getting the output. There's nothing more than that. Only thing is how I am computing this mathematical. And people talks about like each one is like a neuron, and they will also compare with the cells of our brain, right? Of course, because they want to be resemble, like whenever activation was given to the cell, they want to how much it will be respond to that. Right? But if you simply look at this one, I want to find the y, right? That is prediction. So in this diagram, you can see y is nothing but a maybe that is y is like a coming like a f0, okay? Some of the function. This function I can easily compute from the w1 h1 plus w2 h2. If I'm going a simple aggregation kind of thing, w3 h3. So if I get this one w1 h1, w plus w2 h2 plus w3 h3 could be like a, maybe I can say this is like a f of 0, because it is having some more another thing connection. So I can say this h1 could be I can say x1 into w11 plus x2 into w12, sorry, w21 plus x3 into w31 and so on. Okay, this h1. So that means we are only solving some kind of mathematical equations. Now I can just substitute this one here, substitute this one here, substitute these things, and I can get one equation. So from this one I can say, if it is like a 0, I can say 1 class. If it is 1, I can say second class. Or maybe I can put some kind of a threshold saying that okay, below above is a first class and below is the second class. So that's why usually if you represent it in the simple mathematical formulation, it will be more easy to understand. So that's why each weighted connection means the product of the output of one unit, and the weight is sent to another unit as input. So this one is sent to the input. So each this hidden function, hidden layers, and then this the output layer will have a function called transfer functions. More basic level of neural network, you can say this hidden layer hidden units can have a maybe like a identity function. That will be like a simply 1, correct? And we use the activation function here as a for the output unit. Activation function most commonly used is like a sigmoid 1 by 1 plus e to the power of minus x. The sigmoid function. So there's a single layer perceptron. Usually we call that is a single layer perceptron, right? The very basic version of it, where we have a x1, x2, xn, and then you have the weights w1, w, and then weighted sum, and then you have a activation function. It could be like a here this in this example it would be like a usually called like a sine function or a step function. This is called, and getting the output. And you can see this y is nothing but a sine of sigma I is equal to 1 to n, I is equal to n, wi xi, right? Wxi plus w0. Of course, if you look at this one, this is the if you go to the neural networks, actually this is nothing but a vector x dot product of vector x and vector w. Right? There is a wixi. Of course, we have a wi w0 when you are calculating the for the simple function like if you take the ax plus by plus c is equal to 0, right? And this you can translate into a more sophisticated one. You can say ax1 plus by1 plus this is c. You can say x0. X0 is equal to c equal to 0. Right? I have two attributes like x1, y1, x1, x2, x2, so on. So you can have more also. Right? So this x0 is nothing but a c. Sorry, you can say this like a 1. C is equal to 1. C is equal to 1, right? And then you can have even you can call x0 also not a problem. This is because you can say it's a x0. So this one. So and then this x0 can be made as a 1, and then you can also make it into some kind of a constant, right? 1 into x0. 1 could be a constant, and x0 could be the. So that's why you can have this. You can talk about this in terms of a vector of the dot product of x and w. So this activation function here may be shown as a simple step function, but it can be anything: sigmoid, tan h, or ReLU. And if you look at the deep learning algorithms, we will mostly using this ReLU at multiple places. So all these things will be this activation things will be useful to map the values output of the network within some kind of a ranges. It could be like a 0 to 1 or -1 to 1, +1 or -infinity to +infinity. Right? You can have any number of based on these functions that you can see. Either you want to be linear or non-linear things. Usually, basic perceptron is usually good for the linear data, but you can have advanced things for the non-linear aspects. Of course, this could be an example. I'm just skipping it. And then people are talking about this deep neural network. So whatever that we are having here, we have seen this hidden layers. So you can increase more layers, right? Suppose what I'm capturing here, if you look at it, this W1 H1, right? This H1 is getting the input from all the nodes, right? This F is getting from this H1, H2, H3. So that means all this information. So I may not be understand this feature. This is the features, X1, X2, X3 are the features, right? Now, if I can add more layers here, so that I can see the internal low level details. In simple aspects, suppose if I have a two-dimensional data, I can visualize these things like there are three objects. But suppose if I have a object like this, can I say which object is one? I cannot distinguish. Right? But if you go to third dimension, maybe it is possible to visualize. If not, then you go to fourth dimension, go to fifth dimension, right? So you can get a more and more higher level so that you can get a clearly visualize the boundaries of each group. The same aspects may happen here also, because we are trying to increase the complexity so that it will try to learn things from the previous layer and propagate further. So that's why people have started, if you are having a more number of layers, hidden layers, they're calling it as a deep neural network. So, but here the problem here is you cannot have a good reasoning about the previous events, because whatever is happening in the previous state, it may not remember things, because whatever the input you are given, you just give the output, but it cannot able to store or maybe maintain something like a reasoning can be given a good reasoning, or also it called like interpretation. Right? Suppose the example is if you are taking the next word in the sequence. Suppose when you are typing the you are in the cell phone, if you are typing some words, you will get what the next three possible words, right? So can you predict the next word in the sequence based on the context of the previous word? Right? So here this problem with the deep neural networks is because they mainly taking the cognizance of the previous state of the words, but they may not go for the previous to previous one, right? The old things may not be things. So that's why people have started about this deep learning aspects, starting with the recurrent neural networks. So this recurrent neural networks is nothing but you have the deep neural network with the loops. So you are getting this output, and then but you are keeping into the again making the loop. So that means it is taking the previous state of the network into cognizance to predict the next word. Suppose if you have a words like x1, x2, xn, right? When you process it, and that knowledge will be transferred to the next one, knowledge transferred to next one, knowledge like this. So this can be simply represented in the form of a sequence of the DNNs. Yeah. So you can say this is x1, then x2, x3, xn, so on, xn. So that means the information go from here, and this is also will be taken as a output input to the next one, next state, right? Next state like this. So that means the knowledge that is gaining here that will be propagated. So some of the differences between the deep neural networks and RNNs is because this RNNs will take this temporal aspect, because it knows that okay, this is x0 word is coming at t0, at t1, t2, t15, right? So that means there's a temporal aspect is involved that will be taken care by these RNNs. So here each word is an input sequence will be associated with a specific time step. So this is like a word with the movie was, right? Each word is associated with each time step. That's why if you are having the number of time steps is equal to the maximum number of the number of words, or you can say this is like a sequence length. So now if you take this each time step, we also have a new component we usually call like a hidden state vector, that is h. So we are trying to find this h, right? Always we're trying to find this one. So what this vector does, it encapsulates and summarizes all the information that is happening in the previous state. Encapsulate and summarize all of the information that was seen in the previous time steps. So that means if you take this xt, the vector that encapsulates all the information of a specific word like a ht, is again a vector that summarizes information from the previous time steps. So that means what we are doing, we are talking about the ht means it also includes the previous state information and the current one, the state information. So how much you want to give weightage to this one is WH. How much you want to give to the current state, it will be WX. Right? And this is like a function of these things. So that means this hidden state is nothing but a function of both the current word vector and the hidden state vector. This is the current word vector, and this is like a hidden state vector. Right? Hidden state vector at the previous time step, that is we call it t-1. So this is actually, this is a function, sigma is a function, and more precisely we call this like an activation function. Normally activation function could be like a tan hyperbola or a sigmoid or ReLU or anything. So that's why this RNN we can also look at like a sequential learning, because the x0, x1, x2, x3, this is a loop which you're mentioning, that is nothing but an expanded version of this one. Suppose we can find out what is the next word in the sequence, or maybe next video frame in the. So what are the video that you are taking from the previous one? And there are many good number of applications for the RNNs also there. But still there in the RNNs, there are few problems exist. What are the problems? You can see it is good that to incorporate the short-term dependencies, but it's very hard to have a long-term dependencies. That means suppose the words which are there, which are related to what? Is related to the cloud or related to something else? Right? This is sky related to which one? Similarly, if you can see here, this is French. French is with respect to the speaking or with respect to the France, right? So how much of that information I can able to make, and is it really needed to how much that I can, the information that is passing from the previous state, right? Now can I control this? Control means there are two things. One is that one, remembering further, and second is forgetting also, because it's not that I can remember everything for last 40 years what is happening. Maybe some other things may not be required, right? So that means I want to control to forget something and then remember the same thing, because I don't want to say everything is not useful, because something I need to remember, right? So how much I can able to remember and how much I can forget. That means remember means how much I can allow from one state to the next state, because I am allowing everything, right? Is that, can I control it? Can I control information? So now the gaps between if you are implementing this one in a practical way, the relevant information and the point where it needs to become a very large. That means the gap is increasing. That means what is the information that we needed and the point where it is needed. There are two different things, right? That's what we're saying here in this one. When you can say this one is related to this or this, or where you need it. So then this is a problem of the long-term dependency sentences. This RNN having a major problem. And most of the algorithms you can see there is a vanishing gradient problem, right? And even they have tried to do the overfitting, underfitting, and everything. And there's another problem like exploiting the gradient problem. So these are two problems we need to remember most of the times when why we are overcoming the advanced deep learning algorithms. So if you look at the backpropagation algorithm, so we usually go for the optimization gradient descent algorithm can be used, correct? So the gradients become the increasingly small with the length of the sentences. That means the bigger the sentences, the smaller the gradients. And if the smaller is the gradient, what happens? Your results will be, your accuracy could be dropped a lot. That means the gradient actually exponentially decays as it is backpropagated. And there's a second problem is exploding the gradient problem. So it occurs when backpropagated gradients tend to exploit into larger values. So this is not like a vanishing gradient problem, but it want to do what is, it is exploited a larger values. Here in this case, it is like a reverse, correct? It will exponentially increases. So that's why we want to the RNA having these two problems, but you should be overcome by the LSTM networks, usually called long short-term memory networks. So that's why these are the actually comes out to overcome the long-term dependency problem. That means these LSTMs are helpful to us to actually to do remember the things, because remembering means you should have memory. So that's why I choose to retain their memory over arbitrary periods of time and also forget if necessary. So this is also, these two are more important, right? You are retaining and then forget. So they started with developing a LSTM network. So now we have to find out what to be this hidden state vector H in that case. Right? But earlier we are talking about it will be a summation of the both current and previous states. Right? Now that how much we need to be encapsulate the information, that means how much we can able to do this long-term dependency. So that's why we have to come out of it. So how to determine the correct and useful information. Remember these words, correct and useful. Right? So they have to be stored in the hidden state vector. So that's why they calling as it should be like a repeated RNN. It could be like a repeated RNN. That means RNN itself is like a repeated DNN, right? The loop of a loop with DNN. But now this is like a now you can see that each state xt minus 1, ht minus 1, then xt, xt plus 1, ht plus 1, right? But in LSTM, it is having a different things. Here you are having only tan hyperbola, so that means the activation function which you are deciding it, right? Deciding the output of this one, out of this unit. But here in this case, we are having the four interacting layers. More specifically, we are trying to incorporate 3 new gates. 3 gates will be added to this one. Because earlier this tanh is already there, but now we are adding the 3 gates. And these each gate will be having a different purpose, and they are useful for controlling the information, controlling the knowledge which is coming from the previous states. So this one is the earlier we mentioned like 2, right? One is the you have to retain and forget. Now you have to allow also, right? Once you learn something new in your own state, you learn something new. Then you have to allow that one to the necessary. What is that you want to allow this one, like output, right? So we have these 3 new gates. So if you look at this one, at the very high level, you have the given input state, and then you go into the output. So the important thing is what is the state of this cell. So what are its internals? We need to tell what is each one, right? So that means the ability to remove or add information to this cell, that we call it like using the gates. That means you can keep a gate to enter, stop, or control it. Right? So that means they actually help us in optimally letting the information through. So suppose you can say there may be composed of a sigmoid neural network layer and a point-wise multiplication operation. That's a sigmoid function. Usually sigmoid will have a values from the 0 and 1, right? Because it's a S-shaped curve, you have this is like a 0 and then 1 you have. So that's why this LSTM is having the 3 gates, because they will be useful for the protecting and controlling the cell state. So this is at the high level that you can see there are 3 gates. One thing is we should have a input gate. So what is the input that is coming to us, right? How much of the newly computed state for the current input you want to let through. And forget means it defines the how much you want to forget about it. That means you want to leave that part of previous state. You want. Output means how much of this internal state you want to expose to the next state, next layers, expose to the external network. So, okay, because of time I'm not going into deep because you have one more session also for LSTM. So this forget equation, you can simply write this is a, see now I have the xt, right? And then the ht minus is coming from the previous state. Okay. So I can write a function of ht1 minus xt. Okay. Similarly, you can have how much you want to new information going to store in the cell state. Right? So that means it's like it's a tan h which is coming up. These are like a B is represented. I means input state, input this one. C means the cell state, right? So these things. So that means you those two you can combine to the new state. Now you can look at the output state. This one, and you can use this state from the HT, the hidden layer vector. You can multiply with the tan hyperbola of that one. So this is actually coming from these two things. So there are many variants are there again for long short-term memory. So sometimes they will say you want to can I combine two gates into one, right? Can I, because there are many of the papers are there coming up, and one of the people have started working with the GRUs where they have only two gates. That means they are combining the forget and input gate into a single update gate. So they are calling it GRUs. So you can see most of the people are working in this GRUs also, right? Recently they started for the even imaging also. And there are other variants also there because the people are started about only LSTM going in the one state to the other state, right? The XT minus one, XT minus one, and then XT, so on, right? So now that is going in one direction, can you have like a reverse also, right? That's why they call it a bidirectional LSTMs. That means one is that one on the input sequence as it is, and second is the reversal copy of the input sequence. That means we are going in a reverse direction. Why it is required? Because see, once you go to here and you are taking this one, correct? You are taking the information. But what happens? You may be not having any context where you are doing it. So that's why you want to go back and see what is the context you are looking for. So that is the advantage of this bidirectional LSTM. And of course, for the Q&A questioning answer, people are talking about LSTMs to be working. With Quora and everything. Right? There are a good number of applications on there, intent modeling, discovering, and everything. So this is actually an interesting aspect, like intent modeling. See, many times we feel that one, okay, we want to expect what is the kind of a meaning of it, right? And of course, I think all of you may be knowing this money laundering transactions. Hope that you people have heard the word money laundering. Right? So a money laundering transaction in a banking environment, can any one of you tell whether it is legal or illegal?
Hello, sir. If it is
Yeah.
authorization, it is legal. If it is unauthorization, it is illegal. Actually, we have to take all the permissions from the banks and government of India, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, true. So that means suppose if I have a banking system, if I process a transaction, so that means it is illegal, right? If it is not authorized, it will not go through this banking, right? It will stop there itself. Is this interpretation is correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that means any transaction which is happening through the banks are within the legal framework, right? Because if they have a set of rules, and anything which follows these rules only will be the transaction is executed. So this money laundering transaction is also executed in the bank only, right? That means how we can say this is illegal transaction? And many banks and even Reserve Bank of India also asked that one to incorporate anti-money laundering software in all the banks, right? Now they are imposing. See, if it is an illegal transaction, it will not enter into the system, because suppose I want to transfer to you 5 crores, and if the system is allows, then only I can transfer. If system don't allow, I cannot transfer. Moreover, I should have an account. Maybe I should have 3 years to be with the bank. Something they may be having rules. Set of rules will be there. After crossing all these rules, only the transaction will be successful in the banking system, right? So then, what is the why you are saying this money laundering transaction needs to be handled differently, right? Because though it is like a transaction in the legal framework, in the banking framework is illegal, the thing is the intent behind doing this transaction is illegal. And remember nowhere that one the people write intent. Right? He said I am doing the robbery, I want to do the hawala, I want to do this one. Because people don't say that one. Right? Nowhere they will be recorded. So now you can say because of the data was not available here, can you say I cannot develop an anti-money laundering solution, AML solution? Right? That means we need to do something else. And many times we think that the data is there and we want to analyze it. Maybe AI or maybe deep learning or data science, whatever it is. Right? But here in this case, this itself is not there. That intent, what you are saying, it was not available. Suppose you ask a question, I only know these words, but I don't know your intent behind this one. Right? So how you can model this intent of such things, the intent modeling, discovering all these things. Suppose gated recurrence, again there is a advancement, not advancement actually, it's like a variance of the LSTM where the 2 gates are combined, and it has only first 2 gates are combined like they call a update gate, and you have another second gate, third gate you can call a relevant gate. So because they want to completely avoid this vanishing gradient problem that exists in the RNN. Then actually the people are now talking about the sequence to sequence models or encoder decoder models, and this actually started with the machine translation, because they want to translate the sentence in one language to another language, right? And it seems like a very good approach. I don't know how many of you have gone through in detail these things, this encoder and decoder. So actually what happens, it's not like a one-to-word, right? Because usually when we are talking about English to Hindi, right? If you want to convert, it's not like I can take each word and then convert and then write a sentence in the Hindi. It's made with that one, right? So it has to go into some kind of a representation. So usually you can call like a context vector, right? And that is actually given to the another mechanism to get this one. So initially each word can be represented as part of the each word can be represented as a vector. So all this sequence of vectors are passed to the encoder, which will compute a single context vector or intermediate vector. So this context vector is actually passed to the decoder state, and it returns a sequence with a high likelihood. So, just one minute. Here, the encoder and decoder could be any of the sequence model, that whatever that we just now discussed about LSTM or GRU, anything. So you can see how these steps are going from this one to this one context vector, and then again the reverse process in the decoding. So then another advancements happened in this one. Happened this transformers. This is new things where you have like a pre-trained models, and those models will be given to for the environment, new environment. Suppose you are having a kind of extracting the data. Maybe you give some kind of a query and you are expecting answers. And these answers from these queries you are giving like a suppose insurance data, insurance policies. So you are asking a query on insurance policy, and then you are getting the answer from the policy documents. But thing is, you may not be having the understanding this language, right? The policy documents. But you may be having the knowledge from the other things. These are called, that's why we call it pre-trained models. So that's why now people are talking about the transformers. You can see today, even in the Google News also, you will get at least one article on this transformers, like GPT-3, BERT, Robota. But there are many variations of these things are coming. So now actually deep learning algorithms also will be mostly using in the image processing also, right? So that's why that another area is coming up in the deep learning in the computer vision, where we talk about the CNNs. So people are mostly using this convolution neural networks for the images. Of course, now people are talking about even the text also they are using in the CNNs. I'm just quickly going through this one. So you again in this CNNs convolution neural networks, you have again multiple layers. You have many layers. So you have the input image, and then you have a convolution layer, and you have a non-layer, the ReLU layer, and then you have pooling stage. Right? You have multiple layers. The basic idea is you can see the features which are making, you can be making to the more appropriate things here, and it will be again the features will be. So that means the basic thing which are having the input stage is translated into a more refined form of it. Right? So that means the correspondence of this kind of a pixel may be the whole of this one. Right? So it may be making many changes are happening, transformations are happening from going from one layer to the another layer. So these are the basic layers people will talk about. One is like a convolution, the input layer anyhow, where the input is given to us. Then you have a convolution layer and then pooling layer. And people are talking about repeating this convolution pooling layer multiple times to get a more and more accuracy. So you can also have a ReLU layer. Actually, it actually introduces the non-linearities in the network. So what will happen? Non-linearity means, so if you are having any native pixels are there, so all the transform into 0. So you don't want to keep this one, so you are making so any positive things, it will let it be there. So the convolution is actually a simple operator. So you can have a kernel, any kernel you take, right? And for a given kernel, you can take for these points, you can translating into a single one. That means we are actually building a feature map automatically. So then now I will repeat this one. So for next I will get the next segment. This one. Now I will get this segment. So I will get this another one. That means this essence of these things I'm taking into this one mapping. That is correct. So based on some from a kernel. Now this will serve as my neuron, or you can say even the feature map. All the neurons you can call it as a feature map. So that means if you take a kernel of this one 101, 010, and 101, if you take kernel, so you can able to get a new features. This is a convolution operator. And in the pooling operation, because what happens sometimes we want to be to like a overfitting kind of thing, right? So there are two ways that we can do. One is max pool and the second is the min pool. That means out of these things here you can take, this is like a segment. You're taking the maximum of these things and put into this one. And then you take this one, maximum one, and this one here. And this maximum you can keep here, and this maximum you can keep here. So if you overall, if you look at it, what is happening is you are having you assume that each pixel is a feature. So it was reduced a lot, reduced the dimensions. Right? You are reducing a dimension of the feature map, and you are further reducing here. This one. Here, your feature map, you are further reducing it. Right? So sometimes people are using this as for a dimension reduction also. So people are now talking about the text classification also, using the like softmax kind of operation to do the whether a given sentence is the a positive sentiment or negative sentiments or neutral sentiment. So maybe not having much time, so I just there's one of the application which we did in the banking context for the social signal processing. It's mainly to identify the dissatisfied customers, because whenever a bank call, people will call, the call will be recorded, right? And then the manager will repeatedly, periodically picks up few of these, conversations and analyze that conversations and see whether any of the customers are having a dissatisfied with the services or not. If it dissatisfied customers means you have to handle properly, right? If it don't happen properly, so you have a lot of huge impact for that. So in this one, in the banking, one of the US bank, so they have a almost like a 500 calls per day was served by the one operator user. So the calls could be like a intraday calling, margin call, dispute, security, and everything. And about 10,000 calls from one region, right? That means the overall they're going for a huge data from the petabyte to the gigabyte of the range. So now they want to identify the dissatisfied customers for the quality purpose. They usually record for quality purposes to identify the dissatisfied customers. But if they want to see, that means how many of these calls are actually converted into a meaningful transaction with the customer satisfaction. That means if the customer satisfaction is no problem at all. But if the customer is not satisfied, that means dissatisfied, that means what are its consequences? So with this one, we actually taken this is like a detecting dissatisfied customers among large data captured during conversations. Right? We have used this emotion discovery, and emotion could be like a happy, sad, anger, disgust kind of things. So of course, this slide I have taken from one of the research paper. So we developed a multi-model framework, and our idea is basically we are taking only text, these two only. Of course, you can have many other things, like you can have a text, image, audio, video, facial expression, body language, lip movement. Okay, so nowadays people are writing this lip movement is also one of the mode of the data mode. Right? So, but our analysis we did at two levels. One we did for the emotion analysis from the speech signals, and the facial emotion from the image data. So what we did is we take this speech, we convert it into a text using Microsoft Converter. So now on the text we did the sentiment analysis, on the speech we did the emotion analysis. So this is the actually text signal, audio signal, and image signal.
Hello. Sir.
Dharma garu, I think most probably there may be a technical problem. I think most probably he will connect back, sir. Just we'll wait for some time.